Hashtag Impact invites you in to eavesdrop on raw and honest conversations on creating positive change in the world. I am your host, Regina Larco, and together with guests and hosts from around the globe, we encourage you to get curious about what making an impact means to you. Join the conversation and share your voice at hashtagimpact.com. I am back with a very familiar voice. I invited Jimmy Westerheim, the founder and CEO of The Human Aspect, back on the channel. Thank you, Jimmy, for coming back so very soon.
My pleasure. Thank you for wanting to have me back. I guess it's a good sign.
It's a very good sign. And, I guess I have to give the listeners now a little bit of a challenge because I'm not sure. Are you actually listening all the way to the end of the episode? Yeah. Our most loyal listeners will, I'm sure. But maybe some of you haven't actually listened all the way to the end of the wonderful episode with Jimmy. And what you will hear in all of the episodes of Hashtag Impact, we always wrap up our conversation with the very famous quick fire round that was first invented in way back in season 1. Shout out to all the people that have been here from the very early days. And there I asked that quick fire question, yeah, where I want to know, among other things, who is someone that inspires you in the way they build community. And you shared that it is people around you that build community on a small scale.
Correct.
And then, as it is quick fire, there's only a quick answer and our conversation already wraps up. But I needed to know, what do you mean by that? Who are those people? And please fill us in, because I thought that was so intriguing.
No, of course. And for me, as I said in my story in the beginning of the podcast, I come from a small place. It's a village, 500 people. Everybody knows everybody, right? The pros and cons with that. So I have come from the smallest of small contexts. I have seen the biggest of the big megacities in the world, and I have lived, everywhere from the megacities all the way down to this tiny little village. And I've been around now the startup energy and community, for a couple of decades. And in that energy, it's always about impact, global impact. You need to grow, you need to scale, it needs to. And then I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, but nothing really globally scales. It's dependent on us, right? Replicating whatever is designed and created, or we use a product, like if we're talking about Meta and all their global things. But when you said community, the true power of community can be global, of course, an online community like Catalyst or Ashoka or, some network. But most of the powerful communities in the world, they are local. So the beauty that I think our world, in trying to reach these big impacts where every little toddler is running around thinking about wanting to change the world, is that we kind of forget that very few people will ever change the world. But there's a lot of people who will change some people's world. And that is just as powerful and even more powerful in my eyes. So I really want to kind of scale us back a little and say that I really cherish the people that made a community where I grew up. I cherish the people that made a community in Afghanistan when I lived there. I cherish the people who built the community in the rural village I saw in the borders of Nepal. Because they are true change makers. And like, for example, in Friendship Bench, the beautiful organization in Zimbabwe that we collaborate with, they are also very focused on empowering grandmothers and psychology students in making communities where they live and for it to grow there. And then they empower them with some form of tools and training. So that is what I really, really cherish those normal but passionate and engaged people. They're just like me, but instead of wanting to think out in the world, they do the same powerful thing locally. And for me, that is just as powerful, because sometimes we forget that there's a lot of people out there that want to make a change. Luckily for us, there's thousands and millions of those kinds of people out there. And I don't think we give enough credit to all of those doing that locally, because we wouldn't need this global impact or these global worlds if just all of us took care of our local community, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes we look at global problems and we forget what caused them. We forget the root cause. The root causes were disconnected locally. That's why we're talking about global trends or global communities. So let's, instead of saying we will solve it with technology and global communities, let's go back and say, no, let's re-empower the local community and all the local heroes out there that have their 10, 15, 50, 100 people that they house in their community, and say how important they are. Because I really, really want those authentic pockets. And if I look back in my life, of the most beautiful moments where I have felt true community, it has been those. Even more than the other ones. Because we meet, maybe we share food, maybe we share a passion, maybe we share a hobby, maybe we share something we achieve in the local community, rebuilding a park, for example, or supporting each other, or giving out food for maybe the elderly in the community or something like that. And in Norway, we have a concept which is called dugnad. Interesting word. It's not a Norwegian word, obviously. It's just saying that the local community comes together in solidarity and voluntarily based, and they do tasks that is, the local community is dependent on. Cleaning up trash, fixing up a public building, raising money for someone who needs it, or for a school that needs renovation or something like that. So that word was vital for the small place that I grew up to exist, because it wasn't able to fill all its public tasks within the frame of the budget from the state. So it needed dugnad, it needed volunteership and local social entrepreneurship. So that is why that is my answer. And I'm a little bit tired of people like me being put on pedestals for doing something just because the impact is bigger. I'm doing the same job as someone who is doing it locally. It's just that we have two different objectives. So I really want to raise the people that are doing it locally on the same pedestal, and we can just be in the same space, and we can cherish each other for making communities and connecting human beings, no matter if it is locally or if it is across the world.
Yeah. I think we all needed to hear that, Jimmy. I definitely needed to hear that. I have definitely fallen in the hustle trap, in the how can I grow, the impact of this podcast. I mean, the whole point of starting it in the first place was also to support others, grow their impact so that they can reach more people, get more support, get more funders. And in the end, yeah, you're right. I mean, the local unsung heroes are all around us, really. And if we just start noticing and give them some appreciation as well, or maybe even join them in their endeavors, or even, think of a way. And I know a lot of people are listening here and wanting to hear stories like yours, Jimmy, because they also feel like they want to make a difference in their own ways, but they feel small and they feel like, what could I do about this? But if it's not about impacting the world, but impacting someone's world. Oh, that's so gorgeous to me. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Okay.
And now I would love to invite everyone also to hear your full story if they haven't yet. And although I understand it's also not your full story, because no podcast could ever would ever be able to package your full story in just a 1-hour conversation. But at least I definitely felt that I got to know you and the reason why you show up in the way you do. And I'm, although I'm also putting you on a pedestal on that in that podcast, I'm glad I did, because I know that your story will inspire others to look at their own lived experiences and the people around them in a new, different, deeper, more human way. So that's really a gift that you're giving us with your sharing. Thank you for that.
That's what we were hoping, at least. And as you said as well, I remember doing impacts when I grew up, like small things, projects. And I didn't sit when I was 9 years old and thinking about becoming a global change maker. Of course, I had aspirations and looked at Nelson Mandela or other, inspirational characters, obviously, which is beautiful and important. But I first and foremost learned about community from my grandmother, from someone who was doing that, and from my mother and my stepfather who was doing it in where they were. And there's a powerful story for me that I can maybe round off with, which is when we lost my dear grandmother. So my grandmother was very traditional, like many women of her generation, was someone who hadn't had that much or deep education, but she had focused on the family, and she became a mother very early, and she had 3 kids, and she went through the trauma that I share in my story. And then she took the family to this small village. But when my grandmother sadly passed away way too early with lung cancer when she was only 65, and there, of course, in the small community, you think you know everybody that knows your grandmother, naturally. Not that I was walking around with my grandmother every day, but you kind of think, okay, it's family, friends, they are the ones who are going to show up at the funeral. But also the beauty of a small community when you have a funeral is that they're, of course, open, and they're in the local newspaper. So, if someone feels that they want to come and pay tribute, they can. And suddenly we came to the church and we're looking around and we're like, why are you here? Not judgmentally, but we're kind of like, did you know my grandmother, or someone else going to be buried after her, And then, curious as I am, I started asking questions, not in a offensive way, but just in a warm way, saying like, oh, it's beautiful that you're here. Thank you. In what way did my grandmother touch you for you to show up? You're using your time to come to pay tribute. And all of them had this beautiful story of how she made an impact in their life. How she had a meeting with them when they were maybe sitting and not fully feeling seen. And maybe a lot of them come from a little bit of a tough background financially, maybe struggling with some alcohol addiction and abuse. So all of them had this, as I said, impacted their world. So my grandmother, who was at home and doing a lot of volunteer work in the local community of where she was living, had such an impactful effect on people's lives, even if she had met them maybe 3 times, that they put off time to come to her funeral. Which also showcases another thing that I think we're kind of missing in this impact-driven world, metrics, KPIs, is that you don't necessarily have to be in someone's life for a very, very long time for it to positively impact their world. It can just be in the right moment, when they don't feel that no one else is there. In the right, vulnerable moment, that's when you are there. And you are there as an equal human being, which my grandmother was incredibly good at. She was the one who taught me to look beyond what your eyes can see. Don't allow yourself to stop in narrative. Don't look at someone's clothes and judge them. Don't look at them because they sit with a cup and they're asking for money, for example, or don't look at them because maybe they look like they haven't showered in a while or stuff like that. So she was very authentically beautiful in that. That's also why I carry her with me in the arts and her butterfly, the lesson that she taught me. So that kind of what I want to round off with. If you're listening to this and you have that aspiration to impact and to have a purpose, then start by looking in your local community, and also remember that people like my grandmother needed to be part of something. So also, if you want to start something, look for the people around you that maybe want to contribute. And if you are also abilities within someone who wants to contribute, as you said earlier, if you see a local initiative, don't think that you have to start exactly the same. There's no prizes or fame in being a founder. It's first and foremost hard work. So it's just as fun to be part of something as it is as starting it, because the whole point is what we do together. No one really cares in 50 years who started the human aspect. What we really care about is how the human aspect impacted real human beings. So really think about that and challenge yourself to want to be part of something beautiful, instead of always thinking that you have to be the face and or the person who was behind something, because I think that is often lost and forgotten in this modern world. And we really need the small heroes in the local communities, because that is the core of why our society is feeling lonely and disconnected, is that all of us are looking out into the world through the lens of digital media, and we kind of forget, oh, wait a minute, I've walked past this person 50 times the last 6 months, and I've seen that they have needed some form of support, but I just didn't focus on it because I'm making global impact. Then you're missing the point. So I also have to focus and remind myself about that, because it's just as important for me to be a good human being where I live my life, where I have my physical energy, as it is for me to go to work and do the impact. Because if not, what's the point? If I can't be a good human being where I'm actually physically placed.
If you want to hear more from Jimmy, I highly recommend you listen to his first #impact feature, Human Connections Beyond Labels. You can find this episode in the feed if you scroll to May 2025, and I will also put the link in the show notes for you. I would love to give airtime to the local heroes in your world. Is there someone you feel inspired by in the way they make an impact? Just send us a voice note and let us know. You can do so at #impact.com/story. Thank you so much for listening. I talk to you soon.